Okay, welcome to Design Chicago's panel with New Style Cabinetry, and I have a group of A-listers for you here today, and we're all together, which we're pretty happy to be together. So thanks for joining us. We're going to talk about kitchen design, the love affair with the kitchen. Things have changed so much with kitchens, where back in the past, it was sort of this room off to the side, not to be seen, not to be talked about. Everything happened behind the scenes to being kitchens in the forefront. And we're going to talk about where they're going to go today and where they're going in the future. So thank you to New Style Cabinetry for putting us all together. I'm Donna Mundy. I'm going to moderate today, and also I'm sure I'll have a few things to add as well. I have Donna Mundy Interior Design in Chicago, and I'm going to ask each one of these fabulous design professionals, architects, and we have Margaret with New Style here as well, to introduce themselves and tell me 3 things. If you describe your style in 3 words, only 3, what would you say?
Excellent. I'm John Shaloni. I'm a partner at Tom Stringer Design Partners here in Chicago. We're a multidisciplinary design firm, and we have 18 employees. We work all over the country, mostly residential work. And if I was going to describe my style, I would love to say it's cool, calm, and collected, but I don't think that's true. I might say tailored, collected, and fun.
That sounds right.
Good, thank you.
I will check you all, too.
Okay, good.
I'm Jennifer. I am a design director at Project Interiors. We're located here in Chicago. We are a small tribe of a bunch of ladies who really love, can I say bad ass
I was going to say it for you if you didn't. I was like, you tribe of ladies, badass ladies.
That is true. And if I were to describe our style, I would say thoughtful, creative, and layered. Edgy? I have a lot.
She needs 4. Okay. Fair.
I'm Mike Shively with Mike Shively Architecture. There are 8 of us in Logan Square at our new office. We do a full range of project types from commercial to residential. I would describe our work as bright. We like a lot of windows, a lot of natural light. Crafted, we're really into working with cool materials, and I would also say fun. That's definitely a goal in the office every day.
Hi, so I'm Margaret from New Style Cabinets. We are custom woodworking and cabinetry manufacturers located in Chicago. We make everything from scratch in here in our shop. I would say if I would have to describe New Style style, it's for sure 100% custom, high-end, and built to last forever. I have to use more words.
And for me, I would say our style is classic, modern, and edgy. And so now we're going to jump in, but I do want to mention, if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and submit your questions, and we are going to try to save some time at the end to answer those, as many as we can. So now's your chance. Send questions. All right, so what does a timeless kitchen, everybody always asks, clients always ask us for like a timeless kitchen. It's such a big expense. Clients are worried about how much longevity they're gonna get out of their design. So how do you ensure that what you're designing today is going to be somewhat timeless? We'll start with Jen.
Excellent. I think timeless design equates to materials that don't go out of style. So for me, flooring, countertops, possibly cabinetry colors should be neutral and potentially, basic, so that you can add in layers of backsplash material, which would be easier to change, or even door fronts on cabinets that could come off and be changed. But I think those are the things that make something timeless, and I sort of like neutral kitchens where you might get pops of color from, or pops of current style from other items.
Got it. I'm going to bounce around if you guys don't mind. And the reason I am because I'm with you on the neutral. But Mike, I've noticed you have a way of using really bold colors in some of your kitchens. Mm-hmm. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, we do like a lot of bold colors. I would also say that I think a key element to timeless design is always thinking through, I think things can sometimes look a little better when they're worn in. And so thinking of materials that are going to look okay when they're a little scuffed and dinged and worn. We like a lot of home finishes on stones. We like, a lot of like solid wood finishes that are going to, not be so disrupted by that first ding. I always tell people with stainless steel countertops when they call me the first week and they're like, Mike, like, are my countertops getting all scratched? It's like, you're going to stress out over the first scratch, but 100 scratches in, it's going to look great. So, I think things that wear well are really important, and yeah, I'm not afraid to throw some color in there.
I always use that when we're talking about natural stone countertops, and if they have the, have the stomach for that, it's like your countertops will tell a story of what happened in your kitchen, but it's like this beautiful story of your lives. If you can live with that, great. If not, then marble's not for you. So I love that. Jennifer?
Well, I have to agree. I think neutrals for us is sort of where we find our most comfort level in most things, but for sure kitchens that are such a big investment. But I think too, something that might help create like something that lasts a little longer is really limiting your palette, keeping it to like 3-4 finishes tops. Backsplash tile, like maybe that goes. Maybe it's just the countertop that runs off the backsplash. If you're going to have an island that's an accent, then keep sort of continuity within the space. I think when you mix too many materials, you're like sort of towing a line as to which one of those might go out of style. So keeping it to natural palette and keeping it a little tighter, edited.
Margaret,
So I would say we always look at it from manufacturer's perspective. So we build it to last, first of all, and then we are all about proportions, making sure everything looks great, proportion-wise with appliances, with everything that's surrounding the cabinets. So that's a number one goal. Obviously, using safer colors, it's an option, but you can always repaint things. We are not whatsoever want to do it when we are building cabinets. We want to build them to last forever. So we are trying always to be on this manufacturing side of advising what to build, so it's not going to bow, it's not going to warp, it's not going to split. Just address it from the technical point of view of design.
And what do you, what's your process? I'd love to hear each one of your processes as you go through, like, designing a new kitchen. What came first? Do you start with the layout? Do you start with the look, what you want it to look like? What are your individual processes in your firms?
It's all client-centered for me, but typically for us, it would start with, consideration of the space and layout, and really inclusion of the appliances that client would want in the kitchen so that we can figure out what makes the layout work. I'm a big fan of galley kitchens. This kitchen we're in would be really appealing to me in terms of workflow. And I sort of like simple. So when they're big, I think it becomes even harder to make them work. But, for me, it's usually about space planning first, and then, in consideration of the appliances. And then we get into like the fun details of, oh, there's space here for a hidden cabinet, or let's make sure all of these are lit well, kind of thing.
Right. We start out pretty blocky.
Yes.
Same with you. It's appliances first, kind of get the layout down. Then we really start getting into all the details.
That's a big deal, because if a client needs 12 feet of refrigeration, that's a big consideration in terms of your
you don't
planning.
want to find that out later.
Right. Or if they really want 4 wall ovens, you need to know that now versus planning for your Wolf range, which has, under range ovens kind of thing.
Absolutely. Jennifer, any difference for you?
We also started in plan, but I think something that we love to think about is we think about the user experience, the experience that our client wants to have. So something we've been doing lately, which I really love, obviously only when space allows, but for instance, a family that might have like 3 little kids and have like this mad dash in the morning and total chaos. We're building sort of like a back kitchen, almost like an extended pantry. And it really serves as this area where like coffee happens, toaster and bagel crumbs and all of like sort of the mess that might happen in a hurry can kind of be left. And then when you return to your home, you have this really beautiful front facing kitchen that's really integrated in your home. So sort of like designing for the experience that we think the client might elevate their use of the space. Thinking about like if they're huge entertainers, where do you want the guests to stand? Where do you want them to flow from the kitchen into the dining room? How does that all connect? So it really starts with spatial relationships and thinking about their client and their specific needs.
Mike, any difference for you? Coming from an architectural
Right.
standpoint?
Yeah, coming from an architectural standpoint, we're often designing the entire house in the beginning. So obviously we'll have some preconceived ideas about where the kitchen is going to flow in the scheme of the whole house and how the layout will be. But what we find in this sort of age of Instagram and everyone having so many ideas, the client having so many ideas when they come to it, we started having what we call like the vibe meeting, where once we have the layout established, before we even get into the nuts and bolts of how the kitchen is going to lay out, we have a meeting that's much more about how is the whole house going to feel. What are the inspiration images that the client has, and what are images that we want to bring? And let's talk a little bit more about the vibe of the space and the materials that they're interested in working with before we get into the layout. Because as you know, as soon as you get into the layout, it can start to become a really muddy conversation of how is this actually going to work versus how do we want it to feel. So maybe getting a little bit more of a handle on the feel up front, I think we're finding is helping our clients.
I love that. Yeah. Margaret, I'm going to ask yours a little bit differently because you're the one receiving all of these grandiose ideas from your designers and architects. Is there a process that you go through with them as far as, what's realistic, what's not, how to hone in on, we may come in with 100 ideas and how to get to the point?
Yeah, so the process is different depending on everyone and how many decisions they are able to make before they come to us. But I would say as a first thing, we are trying to gather as much information as possible. So what are your goals? What are your dreams? What are your inspiration images? If they don't have a layout, or if they do, is it doable? If there are any limitations that we see early in the process, like if something is too big, impossible to make, it's not gonna fit. We'd like to always offer our expertise at the very beginning of the process, not to disappoint anyone that they dreamed about something that's not doable, but also we don't say no. We want to make sure it can be done, but of course with limits with our vendors, with limits with materials. Knowing all of that, we try to educate about that and then gather as much information as possible. So our shop drawing process and then obviously fabrication runs smoothly.
I'm going to go backwards now, Mike. What do you think is missing most in kitchen design today?
I agree with what you were saying about we do find that we're doing a lot of what we sometimes coin the sandwich pantry, the place that you can come in the middle of the night, as I often do, and I want to make a sandwich, but I don't want to like leave my kitchen sort of disrupted. So we found that back pantry has expanded to include things like second dishwasher, a sink, maybe it's got refrigerator drawers and you can make a smoothie in there, like the place that you can kind of make a mess so that the kitchen that's out integrated with the living space can stay, more tight.
All about convenience.
Yeah.
What is missing? I think there's a lot of conformity, right? Like we've been working with like a 24-inch base cabinet, but if we work with new styles, could truly be anything we want. So let's say you don't have room for an island, like make an extra deep cabinet you love to bake, make it 30 inches deep. There's no reason we can't. I think there's a lot of established rules and protocol, and not a ton of people like really questioning that. And I think it's time to kind of just figure it out and do what's right for your home and really be kind of bold and assertive in making those choices and doing something that works for you.
That's a great answer. I mean, John?
It's fine. I'll answer it.
John the Tom Stringer.
That's fine. I agree
They're
with both of
interchangeable.
them, and I love the idea of what they both said about having a back kitchen or a catering kitchen or having a service pantry, however you want to call that. I think that's useful, and the idea of non-conformity in kitchens is great. I think when you can sneak in extra storage, like that's maybe, I feel like no kitchen ever has enough storage. So the idea that when we're planning, we need to think, oh, this island could be 12 inches deeper, and we could have a place for those vases that never get used, or the holiday serveware, or whatever it is. I think like thinking about storage, and again, maybe it isn't a back pantry, that's so key for I think any kitchen. And whether it's super small or super big, everyone seems to run out of those things. And also have to think about, again, user experience, so valid. If your client's 4'8", you have to think about how they're going to reach a cabinet that might extend to a 9-foot ceiling. Or if the client's 6'4", what is their experience at the countertop that's only 36? So really thinking outside of the box in terms of what the client needs, again, for user experience, I think is key.
That's the benefit of a bespoke kitchen,
For sure.
definitely. My answer is kind of along the same lines, where I think with Pinterest, it's kind of a good and a bad thing, where we can't get rid of like the all white shaker kitchen. When you do a white kitchen like this, I can sign up for that. But the all white shaker kitchen, and it's just like, okay, things just don't die, and they see it over and over. So this overexposure, I think, ends up with this really bland, desire and trend for kitchens. So I like seeing anything that's sort of outside the box and how to keep it nice and light and bright, but introduce something else. So, and I love your idea of the deeper, where we have one design right now where there's a bunch of storage that's going like hidden behind the range. And so when you have that space to bring it out, why not? So that's excellent, outside the box. I love it. Okay, kitchen envy is kind of a fun question. Whose kitchen are you coveting and why? John?
Well, I might take this one home. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful. Particularly the lit drawers are amazing. So there's this, I think her name is Nancy Meyer, and she's a producer of movies. And I would say all of the kitchens she shows in those movies, which I realize are complete sets, all evoke this thing. And a lot of them are that white shaker thing. But they're all very interesting in that I think they evoke a feeling, like what's the user want, and I think they're warm and homey. So I sort of envy all of those kitchens that are in The Intern and Something's Gotta Give and all the movies that she's done. There's just something about them that feels warm to me. So that might be my envy kitchen.
Yeah, I feel like the Something's Gotta Give kitchen set the trend for the next, how long
sure.
ago was that? 10,
Yeah.
15 years.
And
So
The
she's a
Intern movie
genius.
she did as well, and it has a lot of open storage. And I think that's also very interesting because, again, it's sort of that traditional backdrop, but it has more of a urban vibe, a New York vibe, or wherever that
It's
movie was set.
livable, but it's stylish.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Jennifer?
I think these are all designers watching, so everyone should probably know Joseph Duran.
She stole my answer. That's it.
I mean, it's so good. So let's talk about it together. The monolithic, like monumental marble island.
The fluting,
marble
and then the double bullnose. Who
Oh,
thought that I would
yeah.
fall in love with like a double
What's
bullnose?
that,
Like
right?
crazy.
And like, how about, a banquet in a window overlooking a Parisian street.
With his beautiful wife, just like lounging
Yeah.
effortlessly.
And he's
there.
probably like whipping up a blue vase on like a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, their lifestyle sounds amazing too. So it's like, sign me up for the whole thing.
Yeah, it's all good. But I think too, like something I really love about that kitchen is, so there's no upper cabinets, which really big fan of that. And then they've got the backsplash running up, and then this little shelf ledge could be functional, but I think what's so special is that he used it to like stack art and personal objects. And I think that's something huge that's missing from our kitchens, is they're often really like so sterile and everything's driven about function and not a lot of character and personality. And I love that.
His looks very collected. It's full
Yes.
of curiosities, and yet there's a speaker in the corner. I don't know if you noticed that. I've studied this kitchen,
Oh, okay.
and that thick bullnose marble is something I may or may not be creating right now somewhere.
And the marble
I will
is-
credit him for that.
It's like it was that really not perfect kind of dirty marble, which
Yeah,
like
he
you
found
are
that
embracing
himself
that.
in Italy
Yeah.
or something. He
Right.
like just saved a chunk of marble.
Yeah. And not all
randomly.
marble is perfect, and that's okay. That's actually great.
So yeah, hats off to Joseph. What about you, Mike?
Well, I'll reference an architect. In our office, we love this Brooklyn architect, Brent Buck. And what I love about his kitchens, and kitchens in general, is especially when you get some of the function taken care of with that back pantry, really making the kitchen that's in the living space a place that does not look like a kitchen. And some tricks with that, like an island that feels much more like a piece of furniture. We love the Wolf range with the knobs that can be integrated into the face of the cabinetry. So all these little tricks to kind of deconstruct, refrigerators that are concealed behind panels alongside, food storage, little tricks to sort of deconstruct the traditional notions of what a kitchen looks like and really just make it feel more like it's part of the living space.
I think that's happening in Europe quite a bit too, where the kitchens are becoming it's really almost everything's hidden, where you're not seeing much of the function at all, and it's all like right part of the main living space. Ours are as well, but they look like kitchens.
Right.
So I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, unusual client requests. I'm sure we've had them all. Let's start with Margaret.
Okay, so
So your client is probably us, so be careful.
having
Be kind.
there, I would say we never call anything unusual. That's one approach that we have with New Style. There's no unusual, but I would say something very characteristic that we've been doing and we've done so far, at least a couple times, is lay out the entire kitchen, almost install it in our shop for some of our clients to be able to walk into it, make sure they feel comfortable, even do like countertop templates, things like that, and make sure they really like it before it gets delivered to their site. That's one thing. And also we've done some templates that we would go with to job sites to lay out their kitchen, obviously not in 3D, only on the floor, but then again, to allow them to walk in it and visualize it in some way, because having these 3D visual programs, it's not, it's not working for everyone, I would say. And it's really challenging if you have apartment buildings in Chicago, especially, that you have limited space to work with and you want to put in all this storage, you want to have nice design, but also make sure everything makes sense to the client, to their height, they having kids, or maybe they're older, all of these aspects. So that has been helpful for some of our customers, just to see it over there in space before they sign off on the drawings and move forward.
I always think it's funny. Do you guys ever walk into your client's home and they blue taped all the furniture and you're like, we already did this in our AutoCAD plan. Like, what are you doing? But they need to feel it. But I can see how in a kitchen it's a little bit different because
and with countertops,
yeah,
sometimes you have cabinets, you have the countertop overhang, it steps out, and you cannot see all of these detail and
even just like the flow of your cooking, you can start to imagine it. So
if there's my fridge, you can try to grab it, even if it's on your floor, you can still try to
just pretend.
Yep, and that's been helpful.
Mike, you're kind of at the front line of conversations that start with the kitchen. So unusual requests?
Because we design custom homes, in that sense, like nothing's unusual, everyone's gonna come up with something that someone else hasn't thought of before. But I do find that people think the most about kitchens. They change their mind the most about kitchens. They see other kitchens they love. I mean, we'll be 3/4 of the way through a kitchen design and they fall in love with a new image. So that, I would say, again, not unusual in our field, but maybe unusual to think about the extent to which the design of the kitchen changes throughout the course of the project.
We once had a client, we designed a kitchen around a dog crate that was under one of the 2 islands, and in there was an integrated dog bowl for food and water, and the water had a spigot. Interestingly, the client did not have a dog, but they planned on getting it, so
wow,
they were ready.
Haven't heard that. I've heard the first part before, but not pre-dog. Okay.
That's interesting, I have to say.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was a client request or was our design, but in a project in the Santa Barbara area, we did, this is a very specific thing, we did motorized spice racks that dropped from below the upper cabinets on either side of the range. And we had to use, for the designers familiar with Lutron technology, we used Lutron roller motors that would normally be used to operate a shade, and they had to be weighted appropriately, and it was sort of a really fun thing. So when they pushed the button next to the range, the spices would drop down, you could grab them, use them, and then they would raise back up. And it required sort of an extra deep, a little bit deeper upper cabinet than normal, but that was sort of a fun detail. And it's still, like, to this day, sort of a good hallmark.
So like a party trick, like people come over and they're like,
I think it's like the thing that gets, everyone shows their elevator or whatever those features are that are like, this is the spice rack. I think it's rather clever, honestly. So I do think it gets shown a lot.
Very unique, very unique. Are there any common elements that you like to incorporate into all of your kitchens? Could be design related. I'll start with you.
Sure.
It could be design related, or it could just be a certain layout that you love, or
I would say,
clients that you like to incorporate.
Again, this is client specific, but some clients want double bowl sinks. I think, a couple of key elements: multiple sinks, multiple dishwashers, which have been mentioned. I love this galley sink. that is, the brand, the Galley. I think they're brilliant and they come in a lot of sizes. And I love that the sink can then transform into more countertop or display or functional usage like a bar area. I like that personally because I like to have the transformation of what is typically a large open thing to something else. So that's sort of common for me, whether it's that brand or the
Same.
Calista DeGiulio one,
Calista has a
which
great
is
one.
great.
Julian
There's,
is also nice.
yes,
Yeah.
very nice. All good.
Yeah, same.
I like that personally, so I
Favorites.
try to always push that in terms of user experience. I think that's sort of fun.
What do you think about 2 faucets
I love 2 faucets. Yeah,
at the same sink?
I love that. And
Okay.
especially on these, you get a 6-foot galley. I mean, you need 2 faucets
Yep, and then if 2 people are cooking.
for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well, we all agree on that. The big tank. I think maybe something to consider is sparkling water in a can is like maybe going to consume a lot of our landfills. It feels like lately it's really become popular. So then we have that new faucet,
Yes.
which I love the idea. I think that feels really important. So if you guys don't know, it's a faucet that does filtered water, not just hot, like boiling and cold, but also sparkling. So the idea of also not lugging back LaCroix cases from the store sounds kind of nice. And then this is new and maybe makes it sound a little granola, but I'm very into it. Just starting to think about ways to incorporate maybe composting into our kitchen in an elegant way. So it's not like that little pot sitting there that's come up recently. I like that challenge. Haven't totally worked through it, but we're thinking on it.
Wonderful. Mike?
I always encourage people to move in before we do any dividers in the drawers. Get your stuff there, really put it away, make sure that you're on board with the spatulas being on the left versus the right and the silverware being here. And new style can come back once you're in and we can lay out the dividers. But get your stuff there first, because I find inevitably when you finally unpack and really get oriented with your kitchen, your mind can kind of change about where everything's going to go. And also tying into what you said about loving the Galley sink, we're doing our first project now with a 60-inch La Cornue range with matching side cabinets to the side, and that's really fun for me. Thinking about the stove not only as the place to cook, but also to lay, it's multifunctional, right? Like it can be the buffet, it can be the sort of like display or place to sort of hang around when you're entertaining. It's pretty fun to be working on.
It's definitely a centerpiece of a kitchen when you put that in.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Margaret, what would you say, is there something that's a common element to new style kitchens that you like to integrate into the designs?
I would say, obviously, the way we construct cabinets, it's common for every single project we do. We tend not to deviate, even if the design requests it, we will try to work around it, but still have the same, construction features that we recommend. But I would say that interior storage, that's something when we come into the game, usually we have an idea about the design, we have an idea about materials, finishes, so that's kind of taken care of. But the interior storage, like what you want, try to even take our drawings, we can print them, we can plot them large size for you if needed, try to pencil in. And also that's the approach that we recommend for a lot of homeowners. Move in, then whatever you penciled in, let us know. Usually when we install, our installer or our new style rep can come into the site. You have everything in your drawers laid out. We can measure it perfectly, because a lot of people are in rush. These are the times we live in. But then they're like, you were right. Actually, I'm missing 1/16 for my new knives. I'm like, so always recommend that approach. That's really just in this way you feel your kitchen, you have everything around you, and having all these organizers, it's pretty straightforward, quick process. So we like that approach. I think we share the same view on that one.
Perfect. How do you convey your vision to your clients? I think we have the ability to see, what doesn't exist yet, which is one of the gifts I think a designer architect has that's unique. And some clients can kind of get it through your drawings. And even if you do 3D renderings or SketchUp models, inspiration photos, what do you use and find most valuable to convey your vision to your clients, Mike?
Well, we do all those things. We like to work in SketchUp, we like to hand sketch, but one of the most useful things we've been doing lately is once the design is a bit more established and we're really getting into the materials, is using Photoshop just right with our drawings. So we can actually have like the real slab material, the real cabinet face, the real metal finish. We end up curating metals throughout our designs a lot, so we're not just doing one metal finish. And I think seeing those actual textures in a kind of photorealistic way, even as a two-dimensional drawing, has really helped our clients nail down some of those selections.
I think for us, we see like people respond the best when they're actually able to touch and feel things. So we have to assemble a palette that best represents the kitchen, and then we supplement with photos and hand sketches and things to tell the story. I love the idea of Photoshop. We always do that when we get to the slab part, but that feels like that's a little bit later, so you kind of have to sell the vision earlier on. And yeah, I mean, sometimes one image is enough to just make them fall in love with this vision, and then you can kind of go create it.
I'm going to agree with both of them, and I think actual mock-ups are brilliant. So whether it's just a cabinet door painted in the color or stained in the color you're actually using with hardware mounted on it, I think that's important to sort of show the vision. And for a real custom kitchen, that should be no problem because it's being made for you anyway. So it's not like it's an out-of-the-box request. And I love actual samples, so I think in this virtual world that's challenging, but I just think that's sort of the best way to do it.
And I will say, shout out to New Style and their samples, because every time we make something, everybody else, their samples are like this big. We won't talk about that. But you get New Style and it's like, maybe not that door, that's a big door, but like it's a door. It's a door with your profile and your stain. And if they have the hardware, I'm sure they would mount it on there. Or we've done like a beautiful fluted bar, and our fluting sample was literally this big. It's gorgeous. So they hand you this work of art. It's so much easier for our clients to see, this is what that's going to look like. Because we say fluting and they're like, I don't know what that means, So it's nice to have those tools available. So thank you to New Style for those great samples that you provide. Okay, this is kind of a fun one. If you could be an interior designer or architect in any era, what would it be?
1920s for me.
Me too.
Yes. I feel like, that.
1920s where?
Well, I might be in Palm Beach or, Long Island, New York. I'm chilling with the Great Gatsby.
Exactly.
I think that's sort of
or
fun.
Paris.
Paris would be good. Agreed. Take me with you.
That sounds very romantic. I have to go mod. I think I'm like 60s Palm Springs, maybe.
Fun.
Yeah, definitely like a sunken
Love it. You have to watch Ratchet. That's set design's crazy good.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with both of those, but honestly, I have to say, as cheesy as it is now, because it's all out there. Not only can you really pull from every style, you can mix styles, and I feel like clients are so much more aware now of style. In the Instagram world we're in, it's not coming at us so much with the end all be all is the 4 ovens. It's like the end all be all is I love the swag of this kitchen. So that's a pretty.
See, I feel the opposite way. I wish I would have lived in an era where our industry was sort of a little bit more mysterious, and the designer had a little bit more say in that vision, where it's not like, oh, I've seen this, and not that that's what you're saying, but I think it would be really interesting to live in I worked in a pre-Instagram era, but there was still like a lot of accessibility and websites and stuff like that. There was still a lot out there, but I kind of miss, I think that would have been interesting where you were the tastemakers instead of,
for sure.
And we still are.
And I think it does, to that point, it does challenge us to challenge our clients and say, this image that you have is great, but how can we make this more yours?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. Do you want to add to that?
I would say having my roots from Europe, I would love to live in like 16th, 17th century Europe when all the castles and all the humongous crazy designs were built. If they had interior designers, not artists only, I would love to, be part of like some medieval castle being built somewhere in France or England, or just something totally different. They didn't have appliances or anything like that, but just all this natural stone, wood, and then it's just, it brings all the memories from when I was young and I visited all these crazy hundreds of castles that we have over there. Just
When
I'm
all the
sentimental.
materials are natural.
Yeah, there
were
was no,
man-made.
yeah, exactly, so.
Which
something
that ironically leads me right into, so I already have a little bit of fun with rapid rounds. So just quickly, gut response, natural versus man-made countertops.
Natural.
Obvi.
Natural.
You
Natural?
can jump in.
I would say natural, yeah.
With
Current,
the exception of terrazzo.
okay, good
That's sort of
answer.
man-made. That could be man-made.
Good answer. Current favorite metal finish.
Bronze.
All of them.
That can be an answer.
A matte black.
Matte black.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, antique brass. I'm just crazy about brass right now.
I would say I'm kind of with Jennifer on this one, that it's hard. I like to mix my metals, so I think it's just, or have metals with patina and or. Trend you want to see come back.
Larders. I love the idea of like a refrigerated pantry that you can walk into.
Would you have a plastic?
I don't think we need that. I think like a glass
Can we do
door,
better?
and the whole room is refrigerated, and you can keep your eggs and your butter and big wheels of cheese in there. I don't know. That's some sort of fun.
And you must be having crowds over. I'll come over for dinner.
Yes, exactly.
I've seen your Instagram. I'm coming over for dinner.
For cheese.
For cheese, I love it.
I've been rooting for Korean for a long time. The rest of the world is kind of lukewarm on it. I believe in Korean.
I like it.
Just the white, only the white.
Yeah, sometimes we find the most beautiful kitchens are the ones that that have that humble quality of, you know, kitchens that were built on site in the 20s and 30s. Yeah, partial overlay cabinets and, you know, just really simple details.
Master craftsmanship in it,
Yeah,
and not so perfectly manufactured.
right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I would take a little bit from that. I would say having something to look more like furniture than cabinets. So a little bit more craftsman than machining into it.
I think this idea is really interesting, and we saw that at Cavis, where, you know, they're not fully built into a whole wall of cabinetry, the appliances. So I think it's really interesting to see them turn into more of a furniture piece. So it's nice to see something new with appliance, the way you integrate the appliances into the kitchen,
I think that's very well done as well.
isn't it? Yeah. It doesn't look like it's just kind of floating on the wall.
Agreed.
Okay, trend you want to see end. I'll start. White shaker kitchen with Carrera with Carrera countertops.
You're tired of the white shaker kitchen with Carrera countertops. Trend I want to
There's
see
just
end.
there's nothing fun in it.
You know,
It's the end of the trend.
I'm a bit over gray right now, like gray. And, you know, it started here a while ago, but now it's just getting to other markets. And I just find it, like, it dates a kitchen, it dates a house instantly. But that being said, we do lots of gray. So, you know, I'm just ready for it to be over.
We're just throwing taupe with it.
Yes.
You put taupe with
Stone.
gray, then all of a sudden it just like pulls it forward a little bit.
I said the other day to a client, I think if we call it stone, it's more appealing to me. So let's not refer to it as gray.
Yeah, there you go.
Not so much trend, but upper cabinets, if we can do without them, I would avoid them at most costs, because I think you can still find all of the storage and function in other creative ways.
Yeah, I have to agree with that one. You know, again, trying to make kitchens that don't look so much like kitchens, and then it's such a great opportunity for backsplash tile or sconces, and there's so much else you can do. Put the storage in a separate pantry.
I would say storage-wise, that's kind of important, but I would like, how to say, not to try to cramp too many things into your kitchen, because we have space limitations, and also not to try to make things oversized so they are unsafe for you. I've seen this happening over and over again, and I would like it not to be incorporated into kitchen design, because it's problematic when we get to it. So that's probably the biggest issue of my world as a manufacturer.
Okay, favorite cabinet finish or color, or color.
I like a navy blue kitchen. I think that's fun, but we did a lime green kitchen in Palm Springs a couple of years ago that got a lot of press, and I thought that might be my favorite one for a while. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Goes against my neutral backdrop thing,
Makes
but
a
I like it.
statement.
Yeah.
Yes.
Favorite finish. I love plaster in the kitchen. Plaster, like the whole wall, the hood. I think that's a beautiful look. Super clean, super
Yeah, I love stained woods. Again, getting back to that issue of durability, and definitely my favorite is walnut. I love a nice dark finish on a walnut.
You're an architect.
Yeah.
That's your job.
It's beautiful, I agree, walnut's good.
So I'm gonna go with walnut, but opposite way, bleached walnut. That's just something I love. And then walnut interiors,
Oh,
two
that.
favorite,
Yes.
my favorite combination.
So rich.
I kind of love that the deep wood tones are coming back. So to me, you know, I love when, like the dark walnuts, but then you do them in a glossier finish, a higher sheen level. I think it gives it like a whole new fresh look. If you can have a high gloss look for that kitchen, maybe not for the little kids. Okay, tile or countertop backsplash? We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. If you had to choose.
Oh, I like full backsplash in the countertop, true.
Thank you.
I agree, but if I'm going to talk about me personally, I do love ceramic tile and all these sort of pattern options that you can get with that. Waterworks makes a really beautiful line. The Architectronics, it just has a beautiful pooling to the glaze, and it's so fun to work with.
At the corners, that's a good
Yeah.
tile line.
Yeah.
Have you guys worked with that fire clay tile or clay tile? I think is another brand, and they just have that beautiful handmade regular look, and they've got a great sheen to them. It's kind of what we're coveting right now.
Yeah.
I would say countertop
Countertop.
tile. Yeah.
It's clean. It's
Yeah.
clean. It's timeless.
It's straightforward.
Yeah. Okay. Personal quarantine vice that's still going strong.
What's yours?
Ooh. Okay. Xanax and red wine. True story.
I feel like all I've done during the whole quarantine is just eat constantly, and I think it's a, you know, self-satisfying thing.
Been cooking up a storm. That was
Cooking up a
beautiful.
storm, yes. I just, you know,
Aren't you doing family recipes? Was that you or
it's not
some
me.
stuff?
No, it's just
okay.
not, but I just think, look, the vice that needs to go away is constant eating.
Easier said than done.
Yes, exactly.
I'm with you. The natural red wines and mezcal is my poison.
Nice.
Mine is actually using my kitchen. I'm sort of notoriously known for designing kitchens, but I don't actually cook. And being stuck at home and, you know, less sort of eating out options. And I moved from the West Loop to Logan Square. I found myself actually having to fend for myself and make some food.
I would say I'm missing out on having all the social events, that networking, all of that. Like I had a phase of cooking, like a master chef. I'm all over that by now, but like having purpose to dress up nicely. So, you know, we work at home or we work at offices and no one is visiting. Almost everything is via Zoom. So I would say I'm missing out on that one.
For sure.
Okay, this one's going to change a little bit. So it's can't get enough, make it stop. Okay, this is like watch what happens live. So,
What is that? Yes.
Andy,
Yes.
open shelving in the kitchen. I know how Jennifer feels about this.
Make it stop for me.
It's okay. We're all friends
Yes,
here.
exactly.
We're all friends here. There's no
We
judgment.
agree.
Yes.
Make it stop.
I agree.
Make it. We agree with who?
Make it stop.
Make it stop.
Even from manufacturer point of view, we had a couple projects when we made them and then we took them out and put cabinets in their place. That just
I love the look. So I say I can't get enough. It as long as it's done in a new way, you know, we're pushing that design forward. As
Yeah.
Joseph
And
Durant did.
it doesn't have to be like purely functional. It's to bring like the warmth and personality.
Exactly. Exactly. So when you have room and when you have space, and I also love that sort of clean. You know, if you can do the huge hood and everything, sort of no upper cabinets, I love that too. Two-tone cabinetry.
Can't get enough.
Make it stop.
I'm probably somewhere in the middle, but I'll say make it stop.
for us it doesn't matter, I would say, but I can't get enough personally, as I love how it looks.
I feel like I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
You know, there are times when I love it, and then there are times where it feels contrived. So it has to feel right for that design to me. Cerussed oak.
Can't get enough.
Depends on the finish. Can't get enough.
I mean, I can't get enough of clear white oak. So from that standpoint, like why tinker with perfection?
We love it. Do it all the time.
I think for me, it depends on the finish, because the ones that are kind of high contrast, and then something happened where mainstream USA got a hold of like, oh, what's Cerusing? And then they put it everywhere. And I was like, oh, they're ruining it. So I like fell in love really quick. And then I was like, be careful. So if it's done well, I'm not a big fan of high contrast, but I did see some sneak peeks of what's coming for New Style and some of their new finishes. And one of them was a cerusing that had a metallic silver on a black ebonized wood. And I thought, okay, that'd be an awesome bar finish, island finish. I think that was really interesting. So I'm open to it. Industrial pendants.
Make it stop.
Make it stop.
Make it stop.
Make it stop.
Make it stop. It's a public service announcement. Make it stop. Stop with the industrial pendants. Statement marble countertops, like really bold.
Oh, I love it.
I'm in.
Yeah, we can have beautiful clean cabinets and that on top of it, and it looks like just Rolls Royce of cabinetry. So yeah,
we all agree. I love that. To me, it evokes a feeling of the old European kitchens. So it's just embracing that natural beauty of the stone. High gloss lacquer finishes.
I like it. More.
I think I'm passing. I think I'm out.
Yeah, they have a time and place, but maybe not the kitchen.
Yeah, I don't think it's for the kitchen either.
No.
But I love the finish.
Maybe the ceiling.
The powder.
Oh yeah.
it's a lot of pain, but we love it. The end result always.
It's such an elegant feel if it's done well. Okay, we're gonna go to some questions now. We have time for some questions? Okay. Can you elaborate on oversized and unsafe when you were talking about the trends? I think that's to you, Margaret.
Yeah, so there are some, obviously we are custom manufacturers, but there are some limits into which we advise our clients not to build cabinets over, let's say for their safety or hardware requirements. So for regular cabinets hardware, we tend not to go over, like let's say 24 or 26 inches in width and then 6 feet in height. That's just our rule based on our experience. Obviously there are some ways to play around it, use different hardware, use different door thickness. So it's not that it's not doable, it is, but it just comes with some limitations. If you want 9 feet cabinet door, we can make it for you, but you have to have it like the interior door thickness. So overall, when cabinet is closed, it's gonna look exactly like other cabinets, but when it's open, you have to know its limitations. So that's just for safety and also to prevent warpage over time.
Have you guys ever gotten that waiver of it's like against medical advice, like if you make this cabinet door this size, we're not gonna guarantee it.
I feel like that's a lot of like countertop vendors where you're using like natural marble or something and they're like, this is going to, and then you're sort of like, oh my God, it looks so much better when it has that timeless, the first scratch. I think we just said that to a client last week on a walnut top. If the first scratch is hard, the 90th one will be, your story.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we tend to compromise. So it's like, we're not saying you cannot do it. It's just, let's do it this way. So it works for you over the years. You don't call me, 3 months later and be like, Margaret, why didn't you tell me that I shouldn't do it? So
I hope that answers that question. So, okay, most of my kitchen projects are average in size, leave little room for fun or unique. For some fun or unique elements. I try to incorporate areas for coffee setup or wine, whatever the client wants. What unique areas should we encourage our clients to incorporate other than the standard pantry cabinets, spice areas, coffee, etc.? More like a unique but useful feature. One question.
For me, it would be like considering the lighting everywhere, like, with different kinds of lighting, different temperatures of lighting, different types of lighting, you really can change the feel of the kitchen. So maybe a small space that doesn't have a lot of ability for unique features like, pantries or these floating cabinets, you might be able to change the feeling of it from, functional kitchen to bar just by changing the lighting temperature or something of that nature. So I would say consider that. There's so many new lighting options available that are getting smaller and smaller and more interesting. That might be a way to make it fun.
I think that's a great answer. Hopefully you've considered there's a place to tuck away like coffee maker, toaster, and that pantry that you mentioned is sort of speaking to that appliance pantry moment where we know we can walk away and our clients can kind of have clean countertops and build that in as much as possible.
Yeah, even separate from the sort of walk-in pantry, we often design cabinets, where doors can sort of conceal a countertop. So, everyone wants a beautiful kitchen, but making sure that it's really easy to not have to put the toaster away every day. It can stay there. We can just shut the cabinetry down. It's an ease of use.
I would say if we are battling the limited storage, just make sure you put some thought into an organization of the cabinet interior. So double deck insert, drawer inserts, or pull out behind the door. So even when you move in, we can change these up. We can play around. We can add some additional storage, but having ability to have all sorts of heights or sorts of width, especially in small kitchens, is going to help a lot. So I would say just be thoughtful of the cabinet interior.
I think for me, it's about coming up with unique finishes or design elements that make the kitchen look really special, even if we're not putting a ton of money into it. For example, we have one kitchen we're designing right now that's kind of it's an old like 1940s home, 2 layers, and the back of one of our cabinets is going to be seen in the family room. And so we designed like this beautiful reeded panel to, instead of just panel molding or panel ends, cabinet panel ends on the back and the sides, we're doing it with reeding. So to me, it's sort of, what can make this kitchen look like it's really, elevated. And sometimes it's in those elements, and sometimes lighting is one of my favorite things. Like, even if we can't change a kitchen, if we can change like the hardware and the lighting, to me, the lighting is something that can take your kitchen from one look to another pretty quickly. So I think that's one of the most impactful areas. And then the functional side of lighting as well.
That's a good point. So like aesthetically, something that we did recently, it was sort of like a Band-Aid renovation, and they had a very standard stainless steel hood fan. We took that down and we built this like curved moment that we tiled in clay tile, the natural terracotta tile, and it added a huge visual impact. We didn't take any more space away from what was already being occupied by that hood fan, but we got so much more visual. It was really pretty and super effective.
Okay, how has the virus affected your business? John, you want to start with that?
Sure. I think like everyone probably on watching this and all of us, we've learned to virtually present in a much better way. I think we're having more meetings than ever, so that might be a negative of the virus. Lots of Zoom calls. So for me, that's
internal meetings or external?
Internal meetings,
okay.
Thank you. For clarifying, I like meeting with the clients. So those kind of are fine. But, there's been a little bit of slowdown in terms of maybe client calls coming in. But overall, I think, we've had quite a nice little bit of business during the virus.
It's a wild time. Pretty much any client or vendor or anyone I'm working with probably knows my kids' faces by now. They're like sitting there popping in on the Zooms. But I think it's a wonderful time for us, actually. I think there's never been a time where people have appreciated a home and put that much into investing in their space and realizing the things that maybe we've created for them that really make them love their home. So I feel like especially excited to be doing this right now and being in residential at this moment.
Aren't you all glad that you do residential right now? I mean, I know you guys are multifaceted. You guys have a little bit of contract work as well, but at least the residential side is just on fire.
Yes.
Yeah, from a project standpoint, we're doing a lot of vacation homes and second homes for people now, which is always really fun projects to work with. But one of my favorite things that has happened lately is I feel like people are just so much more respectful of each other's time. I'm not getting so many late night emails, or if I do, it's very much like don't respond until tomorrow. I think people are just a lot more respectful of what everyone's going through.
I agree. I would say we are, for a while, it was a little bit delayed. Like I think in March through May, everyone's like not sure what's going on, what they will be doing. So we were struggling with that delay in time, but overall, I agree. People are respectful of time. Like we will not have multiple meetings for whatever the reason is. We in general get things done much faster than we would have before the virus. And I think that sitting at home, having all this extra time to think about their designs, the decisions get made faster. So that's beneficial for us. I would say the process is much smoother because a lot of homeowners are at home and being able to make that decision fast.
And I think there's just a new appreciation. I mean, I've always preached on the value of living well, and I think our best clients are ones that already value that. And more people now value that more than ever, and it's above all else. And so I think it's been kind of a good reset in that way. I think for me, our team is closer than we've ever been. Even we are working together right now, but even when we weren't, I think we all kind of stood together and got through the hard parts together. And then our clients are all over the country. They're moving around more than they have. So they're reevaluating what's important to them and finding different spaces in different states. So it's got us outside of Chicago a little bit more than we normally do. So silver lining, but.
I think there's something funny that's happened with, particularly you were talking about natural light, all of these things that we think about usually about view corridors from certain rooms. Now all of a sudden we're looking into spaces and everyone's worried about their Zoom backgrounds. So we've had a number of calls like, can you do my bookshelves? We need something behind me because this is where my camera faces, or my desk is in the wrong location. And I think that's sort of a humorous moment of our time. It's really solvable many times, but I think that's sort of a fun thing that's happened out of this is like thinking about what is behind you in every single one of these calls, right?
Well, and I'm thinking about it when I'm designing for them.
Totally.
So we just met with a new client yesterday. I'm like, are you zooming? Where are you sitting? What's behind you? And I'm like, oh, it's going to be good. We're going to make this good,
Yep.
you know, because that's our little calling card right there.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you all for being here today. This was such an inspiring, informative chat amongst friends. Thank you to New Style for hosting us, and thank you all for joining us today. And we hope that the Design Chicago has been full of inspiration for you at a time when we all need to connect. So you guys all have a great day.